There is so much more to being a real estate investor than just buying a rental property and putting renters in it. Today, we're going to go over the things you need to know before making the decision to buy an investment property. Hi, I'm Delaney. I am your millennial home buying agent here in beautiful Boise, Idaho.
Whether you are a first-time homebuyer, looking to upgrade, or considering an investment property, my goal is to provide you with all the knowledge and tools you need to make an informed decision about home ownership.
On this channel, you will get everything from market updates to home buying tips, tricks, and everything I know. You are also going to get information on how to maintain your current residence. Or are you interested in investing in a real estate property? I've got everything you need right here.
Boise is an incredible place to live, work, and play. I can't wait to share all the hidden secrets and gems with you. So if you are ready to embark on your home ownership journey, hit that subscribe button and let's explore the Boise real estate market together.
So you may have been thinking, I want to get into real estate, I want to start investing, I want to have rental properties and income properties to supplement my income or to build wealth for the future. Whatever it is, today's video is going to help you decide whether or not you actually want to become a real estate investor, if you want to become a landlord, and some of those key things to think about before becoming a landlord. So first, we need to understand what type of rental property you would like to have. This is really important because this determines the type of home and the location of where you want to be. Each type of rental has pros and cons associated with it, so you need to understand what your pros and cons are. Every type of property has pros and cons, so it is important to understand those and know what you're getting yourself into. So first we need to talk about selecting the right property because each type of lease that you are wanting to have on that property and dictates what type of property you're going to buy. And so deciding what type of lease you are going to have is going to be deciding on where you buy and what home you buy. So starting off, you are going to think about if you want a 12-month lease. So with a 12-month lease, you are going to have one tenant who lives there for 12 months, maybe longer. The intention is for them to live there for an entire year. So the hope is that you have less turnover and you have to spend less time as a landlord seeking out new tenants for your property. The thing to think about with this is the fact that you are going to have to be doing maintenance and repairs on this property. Typically, a tenant will bring their own furniture and, depending on lease agreements, may have to maintain things like yard and things like that. So we've all heard of friends and family who own Airbnbs, VRBOs. It's quite common for people to buy properties for short-term rentals. These are typically several days, usually less than 30 for people to stay. Now, with these, you are going to be working with a service such as Airbnb, VRBO, to find your tenants for that short period of time. They will be taking a percentage of that fee that people are paying to stay in your home. Now, this can be more financially beneficial depending on the area in which you are deciding to purchase. It is also a higher risk because you have so much turnover in the property that there may be more wear and tear and more damage because of that turnover. You also need to be prepared to do cleanings and things between tenants, which can cause more maintenance and repairs required by the landlord at any given time. Because you have turnover so often, you're going to be needing to go and do cleanings, repairs, things like that between tenants. So there is going to be more landlord involvement on this type of a property, but the financial reward is that typically people who have short-term rentals actually end up netting more at the end of the month than those who have long-term renters. The next type is a vacation rental. Now this is a little bit like a short-term rental. However, typically vacation rentals are places that landlords tend to rent out for a week or 2 weeks or even a month that are a little bit longer and less short-term than a VRBO or an Airbnb. So these are often in locations such as near the beach, near a ski resort, near some sort of attraction that entices people to come stay, maybe for the summer or things like that. The risks that go along with vacation rentals is oftentimes there is a season that you are booked, and then there's a season where you are not. So if you have a rental property next to a ski resort, most likely during the winter, it is going to be booked solid. And then the shoulder seasons will happen, and you will not have nearly as many rental opportunities during that time. Doesn't mean you won't, it just typically means it's a lot lighter, so you need to make up kind of that rental income in high season for that property. Have you ever heard of a corporate rental? Now, this is something people don't talk about very often. It often requires tenants to stay about 30 days because a company may be relocating them to an area, offer to pay for housing for 30 days, and then they are, during that time, supposed to be looking for their long-term housing. So these are great. They reduce the turnover. However, depending on which area you're in, this may or may not work well for you. If you are in a city where you have a lot of corporations who are bringing people in, super beneficial to have a corporate rental. However, if you live kind of or have a property that is not close to a lot of corporations, this may not be the option for you. So the final category of rental we're going to talk about is luxury rentals. So these can either be short-term or long-term rentals, and they may actually require you to do some upgrades to a property in order to be classified as a luxury rental. So something to keep in mind, these typically have fewer people who are able to afford them, and so it's just something to keep in mind. However, if you do have a luxury rental that has some great features, you might have more people willing to pay for them if you have kind of something special about that property. So you need to look at a property as a landlord and not as a homeowner. So what I mean by this is you can buy a home as a landlord that is completely not what you would live in yourself. By that I mean it may have a different number of bedrooms or a different number of bathrooms, or it might be a totally modern home and you prefer more cottage style, or vice versa. So you don't need to love the home to live in it. You need to understand things like square footage, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, convenience to local amenities, things like that are going to be more important to a renter than necessarily the fact that it has shaker style cabinets versus more modern ones. You also need to do some research on amenities around your property. So is it close to the freeway? Is it close to a lot of employers? Is it close to parks and family spaces? Those are all things that can be important to a renter and things you need to look at if you are going to be purchasing a property. Remember, you're not going to be living there, so it doesn't really matter what you think or how you would use the space personally. It really matters at how a renter would use it and if they have access to the things that are typically important for renters. You also need to select a well-known or popular area if you're going to be going down the VRBO, luxury rentals, vacation rental type properties. You need to pick a spot that people actually want to go to and that people are actually going to want to stay in a home. Another thing you need to be really aware of is understanding what vacancy rates are in that area, as well as average price of rent and things like that. Because these are all things you need to make sure you have a very firm grasp on before you even put an offer in on a property. If you are specifically looking at a property to become an income property or a rental property, you need to make sure that you are going to get the rent that you need in order to make this a income producing property. Another thing we need to look at is property taxes. So property taxes can eat into your profits. So you need to make sure you are buying a property in an area that you can demand rents that will cover those property taxes. Now, typically areas with higher property taxes are areas that are highly sought after, and so there is a balancing act of finding a property that has decent property rates, but also can demand a rent that is appropriate to cover your property taxes. So let's talk about short-term rentals versus long-term rentals, because depending on the type of rental you want will decide the location and type of property that you are willing to purchase for this investment. So deciding if you want a short-term rental, what is it really close to? Sometimes a more condo style investment property is going to be more attractive because there's less maintenance, there's no yard, things like that, versus a long-term where you might want something more neighborhood or close to employers. So this is less of an issue in Idaho, but if you're watching this video and you're not from Idaho, something to consider is that different municipalities and different laws will require your rental property to be inspected. So you need to make sure that you are aware of that going into purchasing a rental property. Finally, you need to think about condos and homes located within an HOA. There are neighborhoods that do restrict short-term rentals from being part of or located within the neighborhood or within the condo building. Most neighborhoods have a cap on how many properties within the neighborhood can be long-term rentals as well. So you need to make sure that you can check with the HOA if there is a property that you are looking at that may have some restrictions regarding rentals, whether short-term or long-term. So you also need to understand the financials that go along with owning an investment property. So before you even purchase a home, it is important to think about these things and make sure that you are ready to purchase a home. Purchasing a rental property is completely different financially than purchasing a primary residence for yourself and your family. So these are some things that you need to think about when considering purchasing a rental property. So typically a lender will require 15 to 20% down payment on any investment property, as well as a 680 credit score. Some will even require up to as much as 6 months of reserves in case that property doesn't get rented right. I hate to say it, but often investors get stuck with a higher interest rate. So this is something that you need to be aware of, that you are probably not going to get that same interest rate that you would get on a primary residence as you would on a rental property. So budget is going to be your best friend. You are going to have to budget for down payment, inspections, anything like that, but you're also going to have to manage a budget for things like maintenance, marketing. All of those things require a lot of out-of-pocket expenses that you might not see a return on for a little while. So budget is going to be your best friend. Return on investment is the next thing we need to talk about. You need to make sure whatever property you are buying, that there is a high likelihood that you will get a return on all those things I just mentioned in budgeting. So you do not want to be paying out of pocket for your own investment properties. This does not make it an investment property. It makes it kind of a black hole for your money. So within your ROI, you need to make sure that you are budgeting for vacancy rates, repairs, and maintenance on the property, which should be about 20% of your income for your. So this is why I highly recommend that you bring in the experts at this point and make sure that you are getting the best property and you have the best team on your side. So you really need to find an agent who understands investment properties and can walk you through understanding ROI. They know the area, they know what rental prices are going to be, and that is going to be your best friend during this transaction. This is where you are going to also want to have an attorney on your side. They are going to help you understand things like tenant laws, landlord laws, all of those things. They're also going to be able to help you pull things like leases and all of that and make them customized to your home. There are plenty of generalized lease agreements out there, but they don't really protect either the tenant or the landlord in most situations. But having an attorney on your side will allow you to have custom leases that keep your property safe during the time a tenant is in it. You are also going to need to have a really great insurance agent on your side. You need to make sure you have the right coverage for a property because you are going to be having strangers living within your property for either a short time or a long time. And you need to make sure that you have the coverage that covers those people being there. This is a little bit different than generalized home insurance where you are the homeowner and you're taking on the risk of living in your own property. You are also going to need to find a tax expert because these professionals are going to save your butt. They are going to be the ones that help you understand what can and can't be written off with an investment property, and they're going to also help you be able to file your taxes and make sure that you are paying what you need to, not more and not less. You may need to hire a property management company. Now, I highly, highly recommend it because a property management company has all the systems and processes in place to handle tenants. Now, if you are able to accept all forms of payment as a single landlord, go for it. If you know how to evict people, if you know how to maintain everything, and you don't mind getting a call at 2 a.m. because something broke in the house, go for it. But a property management company will be able to take some of that weight off of your shoulders and handle a lot of situations that you just don't need to as a landlord. It is also really important for you to have a list of these particular people in your back pocket all the time. You need to line up a list of professionals who can help you maintain the property. Having someone who can come clean between tenants, you also probably need a handyman, as well as other services ready and willing to come to your property at any time. This can include things like HVAC because it is required that your home has heating in it in Idaho, and if your furnace goes out, you need to be able to have someone who can come in and take care of the furnace. As you can see, there are a lot of questions and things you need to think about as a landlord. It's not as simple as buying a home and putting tenants in it. I'm Delaney. I am a Boise real estate agent, and I can't wait to share all of my knowledge regarding rental properties with you guys over the next couple weeks. So please stick around and we're going to have a lot of fun.